Hello, everyone. Thanks for taking time out of your Wednesday to join us today, and welcome to this educational presentation. Now, today I'd like to talk to you about taking your trading to the next level with a dynamic duo. These are two methods that you can incorporate that we really feel will increase your odds for consistency tremendously in virtually any market and in any time frame. For example, as we look at this chart right here in ORLY, O'Reilly Automotive, we see just off basic face value, it looks like nothing's really happening here. In fact, it looks like we're in a sideways market, so you wouldn't want to get involved at all. But the first method of this dynamic duo actually generated a buy signal right here in the middle of that sideways market. Now, the second method took your odds for consistency even higher by confirming that buy signal. So now we have a real high probability setup, and look what happened in the next 7 or 8 days. The stock went up 55 points. So I'm going to show you later on in today's presentation exactly how you could apply this dynamic duo to your own trading. And everything is one click away on the PTS Primo Charting Platform. This is the educational platform that actually teaches you how to trade. So welcome once again. My name is Stephen Primo, President and Founder of Specialist Trading. If you're new to my webinars, our only goal is simply to teach you how to trade. We're not here to tell you what we think the market's going to do or what we think the best stock is to buy or sell or what the best time frame is. That is something you have to decide on your own. I've been trading for 45 years now. I started my career on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange. And if there's one thing I've learned in my over 4 decades of trading is that the only traders that really have an edge, that really have a consistency in longevity, are the ones that make their own trading decisions. You see, these traders who've been trading for decades, they don't listen to news. They don't actually watch TV and listen to all the pundits on TV telling them what they think the market's going to do. They don't go to chat rooms or trading rooms. This is what my mentors called outside useless noise. These are the things that actually keep you from the success you're searching for. So what we do is we provide you with information, tools, and techniques, all the things that have stood the test of time, and teach you and mentor you along the way so that you can ultimately make your own trading decisions. That's our philosophy. The only way you can become a consistent trader is by taking charge of your own trading, not allowing someone else to do that for you. And you'll see that in today's educational presentation. Now, before we begin, as always, we ask that you please take a moment to view our disclaimer. I'm going to show you a lot of performance results. In fact, I think I have about 170, 180 slides for you today. But please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the performance results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future. Also, please remember that all examples, since we are first and foremost an educational company, all examples are strictly for educational purposes only. Now, I see a lot of new names here today joining us. So if you haven't done so already, please feel free to follow us on Twitter. There's our handle right there. If you'd like to get more education on a daily basis, I post upwards of 5 to 7 different snapshots a day, anywhere from financial wisdom to bits of setups, not bits of setups, but setups of markets that are applying our signals and our techniques, so you can see exactly how they're being applied and how they're being used on the market and the success we have in consistency. So there's lots of great free information on a daily basis. Please feel free to follow us on Twitter. Now, remember, as I stated in the opening statements, we're not like most webinars you may have attended where someone's going to tell you what he thinks the perfect market is, the perfect time frame, or the perfect stock. We really don't believe in that. That actually, in our opinion, is what keeps you from your success. The only way we think that you can really achieve those goals is by making your own trading decision. Therefore, a good mentor does not trade for you. He does not send you out signals on a nightly basis or does not have a chat room so that you can see what he's doing. A good mentor simply teaches you how to trade. That was the same way I was taught when I was struggling some 4 decades ago when I first started on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange. I struggled tremendously. And I was most likely doing the same things you're doing. I was listening to news. There was no internet then, but we had all these, gurus that had newsletters. I was also looking at every indicator I could possibly place on my screen. And at the same time, I was looking at all of the earnings reports and all the jobless claims. And guess what? Nothing worked for a year or two. It wasn't until my mentors taught me the same things I teach my students that my trading started to turn around. So as you can see, this is my goal, to teach you how to trade with the same edge that was taught to me. And that has sustained me now going on 44, if you can believe it, starting in January, 45 years I've been involved with trading in the markets, okay? Now, we have a great presentation today, but a few things before we begin. Remember, ask the questions at the end, because as I stated, I have a lot of slides here. And if we stop for either slide, we're going to be here far too long on your Wednesday. So if you have a question, many times it'll be answered on the next slide, or just write it down and I'll get to it, I promise, at the very end of today's presentation. Also, as you may have seen on the chat box, please remember to disable all cameras and microphones. This isn't an interactive presentation. It's just a static PowerPoint presentation. So please remember to do that. And lastly, the only thing I will answer is the most common question, and that is this being recorded? Yes, it is. We record everything, all of our webinars. So if you happen to have to leave early, or if you're having technical issues, don't worry. Each and every one of you will get a link to this recording, okay? All right, with that stated, let's begin today's educational presentation. I like to start out with something, a theme of the presentation, and this is something my mentors taught me. They said, Steve, the market you're trading, whether it's stocks, futures, currency pairs, Bitcoin, commodities, whether it's a 5-minute chart or a weekly chart, makes no difference. So whatever market you decide to trade, regardless of time frame or direction, tells you everything you need to know. Now, this flies in the face of just about everything we've been taught, right? We're always taught that, well, I thought the news is supposed to tell me what I know, or what the stock's going to do. Or I thought, the support and resistance was supposed to tell me what's going to happen, all right? These are all things that I used to rely on, and ultimately, I couldn't make a dime using any of those. So my mentor said, listen, if you learn how to listen to the market, it's pretty much telling you in advance what it wants to do. The only problem is we're never taught to focus on what the market wants to do. We're always taught to listen to some guy on TV or some guy in a chat room. So it's difficult because no one really knows how to listen to the market. Well, in today's presentation, I'm going to give you 2 methods. In fact, these 2 methods will help you listen to the market because that's what they're based on, market behavior. Here's the first of the dynamic duo. It's strategy number 4. You've heard me talk about it before. This is the first method that my mentors taught me, and I continue to use it now, 44 years later, in some capacity in my own trading. Let me give you some of the highlights of this particular method. It's a pattern recognition strategy. So this means we're looking for a pattern that repeats itself over and over again in any market or time frame. It's designed for traders looking to catch momentum. And here's the beauty of this method. Oftentimes, when it looks as if the market is going sideways or doing nothing, that's when the signals are generated. Because of this pattern, it's able to identify before momentum is manifested or visualized on the chart. So this is the beauty of this. Many times you'll get in when it looks like the stock is doing nothing. And it only uses one indicator. That's the 50-period moving average. So I'm going to share with you 2 of the 4 rules in this method right now. Okay, can't give away all the rules. It wouldn't be fair to the people that are already members of this course, but I'll share with you just about half of the rules right now. It's extremely simple. Here are some older examples for educational purposes. All right, as we look at this chart here in VRSN, once again, looks like it's doing nothing, right? There's not really, no one would look at this and say, well, yeah, there's some momentum here. There's actually no momentum. In fact, it's a range market. Goes up to the top of the range, comes back down, back up to the top of the range. But here's the beauty of strategy number 4. First thing we want to do, the first rule is apply the 50-period moving average. That's rule number 1 of strategy number 4. This tells us if we're going to be a buyer or a seller. Now, if price is above the 50-period, the way it is right now, we're only going to be a buyer. You've automatically increased your odds by using this simple rule. And you can apply this to any method or any strategy, okay? So we know we're only going to be a buyer. The second rule is we want to look for a bar that closes in the top 25% of its range, okay? A bar like this one right here, close it near the top or at the top quarter. Here's another one, close in the top quarter. And here's another one. Now, remember, there are 2 more rules that need to be met, 2 more requirements that need to be applied for a strategy for signal to be generated. And right here is where the signal was generated. Even though these bars are above the 50 and they close in the top 25%, the remaining rules were not met. So they were not valid setups. But this one was. So we have a valid setup. And look what happened, 20 points in the next week or so. Okay. See how simple that was? Didn't have to go to a chat room. Didn't have to listen to some guy or some earnings report. The market told you it wanted to go higher by learning how to read and identify this simple pattern. Now, this can work on the downside as well. Someone looking at this chart would say, hey, Steve, this is making a real strong base. It's good support here. All the institutions are buying it. But what's the first rule? The first rule is we want to decide whether we're going to be a buyer or a seller. So we apply the 50-period moving average. And where is price in relation to that? It's below. So we're not even going to consider buying this. We're only going to look for sell setups. Now, rule number 2 is we want to look for bars that close in the bottom 25% of their range. Now, we have one right here that closed in the bottom, and then we have another one right here. But remember, there are 2 more requirements that need to be met. Did any of them meet those requirements? Well, if we apply strategy 4, we see that this one did. So we have a valid strategy number 4, sell signal. I don't care what someone in some chat room tells you that, oh, you have to buy this, the earnings are going to be great, or no, the institutions are buying this. Remember, those are the same things I listened to 40 years ago. They didn't work then. So why would you think they're going to start miraculously working now? And look what happened. See how the market fell out of bed there? The beauty of strategy 4 is that as long as you are below the 50, and as long as all the remaining requirements of the strategy take place, you can get in at other levels as well. Now, as with any method, I don't care what you're trading. I don't care if it goes back tested 10, 20 years, and it never loses. Everything will go into a loss at times. Every system, every method will have a loss at times. That's perfectly okay. For example, here's a sell signal. We're below the 50. We close in the bottom 25%. And let's say you decide to go short. So you buy the puts, maybe you short the stock, whatever you decide to do, and it doesn't go down at all. You say to yourself, well, you know, maybe it didn't work out, but I'll still hold on. You know, it's still below the 50. And then look what happened after that. You got another sell signal. So maybe you double up. Now you're short twice as much. So you're all excited. You feel really good that you're going to make twice as much money. And then this happens, kind of drifts sideways to higher. So at this point, you're stopped out. You said, you know, I can't do this anymore. After all, we're in the, you were on top of the buy-sell line, the 50-period moving average, so I shouldn't have been going short. So I'm taking my loss. Boy, this stuff doesn't work. Later on, strategy number 4 generates 2 more buy signals. Now you say to yourself, okay, maybe I just got in a little bit too early. I'm going to make all my money back, what I lost on the shorting side, and I'll make it back on these buy signals. So you buy in there, and then this happens, right? And at this time, you probably want to throw your computer out the window or cursing at me. And you say, oh, hey, this strategy 4 thing doesn't work. All right. So is there a way to filter out some of these bad setups, or at least increase our odds for consistency? Yes, there is. By applying the PTD. This is what we call our confirmation tool. The PTD is another tool I was introduced to on the floor. That was something that you had to actually calculate by hand on a nearly tick-by-tick basis, and was so cumbersome that we couldn't use it for intraday trading. We had to actually use it only for daily bars because it was just too difficult. But now, with the help of high-speed computers and programmers, we've developed it into a color bar algorithm. So there's nothing you have to worry about. There's nothing you have to figure out. We're keeping the rules, proprietary rules, in-house, but that's okay. The secret of the PTD is in knowing how to apply it. That's the real secret of it. And this is what I teach you in the course. For example, here's an older chart in ATER, all right? Someone looking at this would say, well, Steve, I don't need something to tell me this is going down. Look at this, it's going straight down. So I'm not going to even consider buying this. And on top of that, I may even want to short this. And then look what happens, right? I'm sure this has happened to all of you. It's very common, you know, just when you think it's going in one direction, it swiftly turns and goes in the other. So is there any way the PTD can help us? Remember, it's a color bar tool. What it does is it paints the bars only 2 colors, red for a downtrend and green for an uptrend. So this is how simple it is to apply this on our platform. As you see here, this is the PTS Primo Charting Platform. Simply click on PTD right here in the upper green strategy tab, and the bars will automatically change. Now, we knew well in advance by having a series of red bars that we were going lower. And you would have known well in advance to stay short. On top of that, you would have known well in advance to cover when you had a series of green bars well before it went straight back up to making new highs. So as it says here, the beauty of the PTD is that it tells you which direction you should be trading. And once you know that direction, you can confirm if your strategy is in sync with that direction. So that's how we're going to be applying it with strategy number 4 as a confirmation tool. Now, when we apply this combination, it's called the dynamic duo because you're creating this dynamic synergy for consistency. It is one of our most successful packages that we have here at Specialist Trading and Pro Trader Strategies. We have students around the world using this. I personally use this on a daily basis with my own trading, and I continue to use it in some capacity because it really works that well. Now, once again, not every trade will work 100%. I'm saying that right from the beginning, but we've increased our odds with these two highly consistent methods. Let's show you the process here, okay? These are the dynamic duo rules. You're only going to trade strategy number 4 buy signals that are colored green by the PTD. That's it. In other words, when you see on the platform that there is a green arrow, well, the bar above the green arrow, that's the setup bar, needs to be colored or outlined green. That's it. That's all you need to have a high probability setup. Now, conversely, we're only going to trade strategy 4 sell signals that are colored red by the PTD. When you have a red arrow above a bar, that bar needs to be colored or outlined red. That way, you will have the high probability setup. So let's show you the process on the PTS Primo charts. Remember, we developed this to make it extremely simple to learn. This is like having your own mentor sitting right next to you because you can check your work. Even though we teach you all the rules, this is not a black box system. We teach you all the rules, how to identify a strategy number 4 setup. We teach you how to apply the PTD for a dynamic duo setup, but it's right there, one-click access. All right, let's look at this older chart in APA, just for educational purposes, just to show you the process. Let's say you've been, studying your course and your ways in which to identify strategy number 4 signals, and you see a bunch of them all over the place. So here's how you can check your work. Simply go to the platform on the green strategy tab here, click on strategy number 4. You'll get a drop-down menu, and in order to check your work, click on signal arrow, and that will share with you where the arrows are. As we see, there were a number of signals, but unfortunately, some work better than the others. For example, this one worked very well. This sell signal did not work well at all, it went straight up. This buy signal worked very well, but these buy signals really haven't shown any profit or any direction. They've pretty much gone sideways to lower. So how could we apply the dynamic duo? Well, first thing we want to do is click on PTD, and you'll see the colors appear. And remember, in order to take a signal, it has to be the dynamic duo setup, meaning a sell signal needs to be colored red or outlined red. A buy signal needs to be colored green or outlined green. So let's look at our first sell signal, okay? Here we have it right here. What's the bar below it? Is it red or green? It's red. So that was a nice setup that we potentially could have captured a quick 5 points. How about the next sell signal? Well, what's the color of the bar below it? It's green. Therefore, it's not a valid dynamic duo setup, and we're not going to take that. So that saved us out of losing some money, right? Let's look at the next signal. Here's a buy signal, and what is the bar colored or outlined above it? It's green. So that's a valid setup, and potentially we could have made 8 points, all right? Now we have a series and cluster of buy signals here, and none of them have really bared any fruit to the upside. But what are the colors of all of these buy signals? They're all red. They're outlined red or colored red. So this means we shouldn't take any of these signals. And look what happened. You see how the PTD saved you from being involved in that large move to the downside? So some of the best trades are the ones you never take. So this is the beauty, this sums it up, how the dynamic duo is one of our most popular as well as powerful packages, because you not only have a high probability strategy in strategy number 4, you have a great confirmation tool that confirms whether that signal is going to be successful. Now remember, it's not going to give you only signals that work, but it will take out a lot of those ones that don't. So this will increase your odds for consistency tremendously. Excuse me. Let's now look at some more recent dynamic duo signals. These are setups and signals that occurred within the last month in October. Some maybe 2 months ago, but most of them just within the last 3 weeks or so. All right, here's one in PLUG. All right, once again, No momentum here at all, right? We're kind of going lower, then we kind of stable up. Now we're kind of headed higher, but there's no real momentum. Pretty much a sideways market, right? Well, let's say that you've studied the strategy 4 setups and you say to yourself, but I think I see a setup here. So how do you check your work? You can't ask me to come over to your house every day and sit next to you and tell you if you're doing the right thing. So we devised the platform to take that that help for you and to have it there right at your disposal. Click on strategy 4 just to check your work. Click on signal arrow. And you're right. There was a buy signal right here. Okay. Now you say to yourself, well, I'm not really sure. I don't feel really confident right now. Is there anything that can increase my confidence? Sure. By confirming this. So let's confirm it with the PTD. Click on the PTD. And yes, even though the bars before were all red, this bar is outlined green. So that is a valid dynamic duo setup. So you could take that, you could buy some options, whatever you wanted to do, but in the next 4 days, the stock went up 8 points, okay? Once again, where there was no momentum at all, it was confirmed right here. Here's another example on QCOM, okay, Qualcomm. As we see, we kind of made some type of short-term support right here. It looks like we're bouncing, we hit some type of bottom. Maybe that is support. Maybe the institutions are buying. And you like this stock in the chat room you go to. They say, hey, this is really good. It's going to hold right here. Well, remember, we don't listen to those things. We look for the rules of strategy number 4. Check our work, click on strategy 4, click on signal arrows, and yes, there was a sell signal. So we're not concerned with what anyone says on TV, what any indicator says. What is the market telling us? Remember, the market tells you just about everything you need to know. So that's the only thing you really should be listening to. So what's it telling us? Well, it's telling us, according to strategy number 4, it wants to go lower. But how can we increase our odds for consistency? By confirming with a dynamic duo and the application of the PTD. So we apply the PTD, and yes, the bar is red. The bar below the arrow is red. Now, even though all the bars are red, that's a good sign. But all we really need is for the bar below the arrow to be red. Now, the bar above an arrow, an up arrow, should be green. That's all. It's not required that these are red. It helps, but it's not required. And look what happened right after that. The momentum kicked in, and it was 20 points in the next month, coming into the beginning of October. And if you missed that signal, 2 more setups were generated right here in the first or second week of October. ABGO, okay, Broadcom. We see here, once again, up, down, up. It looks like it's a whipsaw market, but a buy signal was generated. We confirm it with a PTD. Yes, it's outlined green. And in the next week, the stock rose 25 points. As you look at MVAX, this is the epitome of a sideways market. I mean, there's actually nothing happening here. You may say, hey, there's institutional buying, Steve. That chat room I go to follows the institutions, and they say that this thing's going to go straight up because there's much buying right here, pressure right here, and there's no way it's going to go down. Okay, this is the same things I used to listen to 44 years ago, and it didn't work then. So like I say, there's no reason you're going to be able to say that this will work now miraculously. Sure, every once in a while it may, but that's like the slot machines in Vegas. Every once in a while you hit a jackpot, but ultimately you'll give all your money back staying there. So we only want to focus on things that have levels of consistency, that have proved and stood through the test of time. And the first thing is strategy number 4. Click on strategy 4, signal arrows, and yes, there are 2 sell signals. So once again, we don't concern ourselves with outside noise. If somebody on TV or some indicator is telling you this is a buy signal, what is the market telling you based off this pattern? It's telling you it wants to go lower. Now, we just want to confirm it so that we can have a more confident setup, apply the PTD. And yeah, once again, the 2 bars below the arrows are red. Now, not only are those bars, but all of the bars are red. So I don't care if someone's saying that there's major support there. Look what happened. What happened to the major support? Now, obviously, something came out that caused this stock to gap down like that. We didn't know. All we were listening to was the market. How about Microsoft? All right. This is in mid-October. The stock was going up, and we got a sell signal. All right. So we say to ourselves, hey, I think I'm just going to sell it. I don't need the PTD. I think I'll just sell it. And look what happens. At this point, you say to yourself, hey, this stuff doesn't work. But remember, that's why you need the PET-D, because the PET-D confirms everything. Now you have a major loss right here, but if you had applied the PET-D, you would have seen that the bar below the red arrow was green. Therefore, you should have never taken that trade to sell Microsoft. This is the beauty of the dynamic duo. It not only generates these high probability setups, but it also will keep you out of trouble many times as well. Let's look at the first chart we looked at, and this is O'Reilly. Remember, it looked like it was a sideways market. Nothing was happening. Well, a buy signal was generated here. We're above the 50, and we're closing the top 25%. And we applied the PET-D, and it was confirmed, outlined green on the bar. So that was our confirmation to go ahead and take this trade if we wanted to. And 55 points in the next week or so. That's how simple it is. And if you missed that one, guess what? There was another setup the very next day. Now let's look at Zoom. This happened coming into September and later on into October. Once again, a sell signal was generated, confirmed with the PET-D. So this was a good sell signal coming into September, 90 points to the downside. And if you missed that gap down here, there was another one right here, where most likely you could have made a good 50 or so points. Now, I know a lot of people always say, well, Steve, yeah, but what if you get caught on the wrong side of some news? Well, we're not going to guarantee that, you're always going to be on the right side, but it's been my experience, I've often said this before, that when you learn how to listen to the market, it oftentimes will get you on the right side prior to the news event. For example, this was a little later, about maybe 2 months ago, as we look here in this chart in KDMN, okay? We're basically in another sideways market. There's absolutely nothing happening here in September. This was a couple of months ago. There's no volume, there's no momentum, there's nothing to even tell us that we should be involved in this stock. It's basically just going sideways. And then look what happened. On September 8th, it entered into a definitive merger agreement with Cadman, a biopharmaceutical company, discovers, develops, and markets transformative therapies for significant medical needs. Now, this was great news. Here's the only trouble that happens. Usually when that news comes out, this is where people buy. That's the point of why the stock gapped up so high, because they started to buy that. Now, if you traded the dynamic duo, remember we looked at a basically sideways, meaningless market here. You would have applied strategy number 4, click on signal arrow, and see there was a buy signal a week before that news came out. That's just with strategy 4 alone. If you wanted to confirm it, you apply the PET-D, and the bar was green, outlined green. Had you taken that, you would have seen the price of KDMN rise 80% in 1 week. Think of any other stock you were in that rose 80% in 1 week. And remember, we didn't know of any news. The CEO of this stock didn't call me up and tell me to buy it and say, hey, why don't you generate some type of a signal so that your student can go long, because we're going to make a major announcement, very good announcement in the next week. No. So then how do we know? Well, we didn't know it was getting bought out. We didn't know there was any news coming up, but the stock told us in advance it wanted to go higher. So that's why I'm saying it's so much easier to learn how to listen to the market as opposed to going to chat rooms, listen to guys on TV. I mean, as I often said, I did that 44 years ago. It didn't work then. So why would you think it's going to work now? Now let's show you the dynamic duo applied to other markets and timeframes, so you can see that it's not just stock. These are some older charts here. Here's one of the ETF that represents the NASDAQ, the QQQ. Buy signal was generated here, colored or outlined green, and in the next 2 weeks went up 15 points, and that represented hundreds of points in the NASDAQ. So you could use this as an index tool or a market trending tool as well. Here's an example on a 4-hour chart of the dollar yen, all right? We have a nice buy signal here that worked really well. Then we have some buy signal here that didn't work at all. Then we have a great sell signal. Well, look at the buy signal that worked. It was outlined green. That's why it worked so well, and you could have potentially made 95 pips. That's close to $1,000 using one unit. Now, with these buy signals, remember, they need to be colored or outlined green. What color are they? They're red. So we didn't take those signals. We didn't lose any money. Now, there was a sell signal right here. To confirm it, the PTD is saying it's a valid setup because it's outlined red. And so that's 100 pips, another $1,000 per unit. So you see, this can be applied to a 4-hour chart of the dollar-yen. You can also apply it to a 15-minute chart of the E-mini futures. We had a cluster of buy signals right here, all outlined green, and it went up 30 points after that. This was on a 15-minute time frame. So in the span of a couple of hours, you could have made $1,500 per contract. Here's an example on a 2-hour chart of Bitcoin, okay? Bitcoin was headed lower, then it seemed to make some kind of table right here. Maybe it was major support. That's where the buyers came in. But if we apply strategy number 4, we see that there was a sell signal right there. Now, in order to confirm it, we apply the PTD, and yes, it's red. 1,500 points in the next day or so. So it doesn't matter what market or time frame. Now let's recap before we go into a great offer, a great discount we have for you today. Remember, the dynamic duo is 2 of our most, I would say, consistent methods. The first one is strategy number 4, the pattern recognition method. I still use this on a daily basis. That's how much I love this method. Strategy number 4 is based on a pattern that repeats itself over and over and over again. I gave you the first 2 rules of applying the 50-period moving average and the top-bottom 25% close for buys, the bottom 25% close for sells, okay? Now, strategy 4 works great, but from time to time, you will have some losses. So how do we increase our odds for consistency? By applying a confirmation tool. That's the PTD. It's the color bar algorithm. And all you have to do is see if you have a buy signal, that bar needs to be colored or outlined green. If you have a sell signal, the bar below it needs to be colored or outlined red. That's what makes a valid dynamic duo setup. When you put these 2 together, you have one of our most successful packages at Pro Trader Strategies and Specialist Trading. We have students trading this around the world. We have students in Europe trading this in currency pairs. Most of our students in the United States trade this on stocks or futures. We also have people trading it with Bitcoin. It's that popular because it's so consistent. And then lastly, you apply it with the PTS Primo charts and it makes it really simple. You see, I can't think of wanting to learn and increase your odds for consistency by using a platform that just confuses you or is so hard to figure out or so long to generate a chart or a scan. It's just ridiculous. The PTS Primo charts were specifically designed to make trading simple because we want you not to focus on what you're looking at, but to focus on your analysis of the chart. So ask yourself, do you think these 2 methods can help your trading for the remainder of this year, 2021? If your answer is yes, we have a great attendee discount for all of you today. This is our special attendee discount, and it really is a good discount. I haven't done this one in a while. We're going to offer you strategy number 4 along with the PTD. You're going to get instant course access. Remember, you're going to have detailed instruction. You're going to get all the entry, all the exit, and all the stop placement rules for the method, all right? Now, also, you're going to get the entire course rules to the PTD because the PTD can be used in a number of ways, dozens of ways. I know we have some PTD customers in this webinar today, and I'm sure you all know that there are so many uses for it. It can be used as a stop placement rule. It can be used as a pullback technique or a continuation technique. There are different ways to apply it, not only as a confirmation tool. A confirmation tool is just one of the many different ways. So we'll share with you 4 different trading techniques using this, all right? But remember, everything you saw today was applied by using the PTS Primo Charting Platform. So we're going to throw in a full year in this offer as well. Now, a full year is going to cost you about nearly $1,800 normally. We're going to discount that today to absolutely nothing. You're going to get a full year free of the PTS Primo Charting Platform. So that's great. It takes all the pressure off. You're going to have that access immediately. And here's the great thing about that. You're not just going to get the dynamic duo on the PTS Primo charts. This comes with over 40 years of things I've accumulated in my own personal trading, things that you won't see, techniques and tips and methods that I've taken from this trading floor or that I use personally that you won't find on other platforms, such as the proprietary exit levels, strength of trend tool, over 90 of the technical indicators that some of them you've never heard of, and personalized tech support. But let's talk about one of these. Let's talk about the proprietary exit levels. This is something that we've gotten rave reviews about from our students around the world because it's one click away. This is just one of our many different exit methods, and we have it right there on the platform. For example, here's a chart in CRM, okay, Salesforce. This was an older chart, but a buy signal was generated. It was outlined green, so this is a valid dynamic duo setup. Now, here's one of the ways you can find out where you'd like to sell. Now, this does not predict where price is going to go, but it really gives you a great view as to where you want to exit using different money management techniques. For example, all you have to do is click on strategy number 4. Instead of signal arrows, you already have that up there, click on range extension exits, and you'll see these 4 different ranges. Now, when I said different money management examples, this is how you could use this. If you're the type of trader that likes to get in and out very quickly, you like, just want to move on to the next one, well, then you would exit at level number 1, maybe possibly exit level number 2. All right. If you're the type of trader that likes to get more bang for your buck, you'd exit at level number 3 and ultimately the last level, level number 4. Another way you could use this is if we get to level number 1, if you have a stop somewhere down here, you move it to unchanged. You get to level number 2, well, then you move your stop to level 1 and so on. Level 3, move it to level 2. This way you're tracking the trade. And finally, exit everything at level 4. So there are just numerous ways to trade with these different levels, and we teach you how to in the course. Okay, you can exit partially at these different levels and then all out of everything at the 4th. There's different ways to apply it. You have money management here where you're basically making 1-to-1 risk reward ratio, 2-to-1, 3-to-1, and 4-to-1. So there's lots of great things with these exit levels. The only thing we really suggest to our members, especially the new ones, is to get out of your trade entirely at the 4th and final exit level, because oftentimes this is where we've noticed that the trend will change. So let's say you took this trade, all right? You bought the stock and you decided to exit right here. Well, in a matter of a couple of weeks, you just made a nice 26 points. Not a bad little trade, right? Now, what happens is so many of our students get greedy. They say, well, gosh, maybe I could make 30, maybe 40. I'll just, can I have higher and higher levels? Well, no, because oftentimes that's where it starts to dissipate. And if you held on, most likely you'd give a good portion of your profit back. Remember, this is all one click away on the platform. You won't find it anywhere else other than the PTS Primo Charting Platform. Okay, so let's break this down. We're going to give you the dynamic duo combo plus 12 months of the PTS Primo Charting Platform. And remember, this comes with the 4 different ways to trade the PET-D. It also comes with automatic entry and exits on the platform automatically. It also comes with entries, exits, and stop placements. So if we broke this down individually, strategy number 4 would cost you roughly close to $700. The PET-D would cost you close to $5,000, and a full year of the PTS Primo Charting Platform would cost you close to $1,800. So we're talking about, if we didn't have this special today, we're talking about over $7,400, okay? So a lot of money to be spending, especially if you've been having a tough time and you're really having to struggle, all right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to discount that tremendously. We're only going to charge you a one-time payment of $497, less than $500, and then a monthly payment of $97. That's it, okay? This is a great way to get your foot in the door and to really start to trade with consistency. Now, ask yourself honestly, I'm sure if you've been struggling, most likely in the last couple of months or so, you've lost more than $500 trading, right? Think of it. If you could have used that same $500 and to use something that has stood the test of time that I have personally been using for over 4 decades, that will really increase your odds for consistency, that will give you a wealth of knowledge on how to trade the markets. Don't you think that would have been a fair exchange? So a one-time payment of $497 and just $97 a month. Or if you'd like to, if you're saying like, listen, I don't want to make a payment plan, I'm sold, I want to get this right now, well, we'll charge you only $49.95. That's still $2,500 roughly off the total price. Now, if you're still not deciding yet, ask yourself this. There are only 2 months remaining in the year in 2021. You owe it to yourself to finish the last part of the year in the right direction. Are you seeing the type of results you promised you'd get in January of 2020? Most likely you're not, right? So invest in yourself. Less than $500 gets you in the door, and it's just $97 per month. Here's how to take advantage of this. All right. Contact Pro Trader Strategies. They help me develop the platform and the courses, and they're in charge of all the pricing and discounts. They can answer any question you have about pricing. And I would suggest strongly calling them at 310-598-6677. They have trading consultants manning the phones right now. They would be happy to give you a quote. There's no obligation. They'd be happy to talk to you about pricing. And if you're interested in going to the info page, this link you see right here is the one that will take you. It's not a live link, but we have just posted a live link on the chat box. All you have to do is click that on. And if you click that on, it will automatically take you to the info page, and you can sign up there as well. Now, I promised you I would reserve the last portion of today's presentation to answer any questions. So if you do have any, go to your chat box and ask them right now, and I'll get to answer them to the best of my ability. Someone's asking, can this work on commodities? Yes, it can. I have noticed lately there have been an increase in commodity traders because a lot of people oftentimes are, a little weary of, I see someone is using there. Let me just, if you're using your writing tool, kindly disable that, okay? If you were, I was saying, if you're interested in commodities, sure, all of our methods, but most especially strategy number 4 works very well on commodities, okay? Remember, if you're a commodity trader, if you're interested in commodities, just apply the first 2 rules. The first 2 rules are, where is price in relation to the 50-period moving average, all right? If price is above, you're only looking for buy setups. If price is below, you're looking for sell setups. Then the second rule, which is if price is above, you want to find a bar that closes in the top quarter of its range, all right? I can't give you the remaining 2 rules, but if you take this great offer today, you'll be able to know as soon as today and find out what the other rules are, okay? Someone's asking, what are the advantages of the dynamic duo over the triple threat? That's a good question. Well, the dynamic duo is included in the triple threat, but the triple threat also has another strategy that is entirely different from the dynamic duo, and that's strategy number 5. So what you're getting is an entirely different strategy as well that generates signals that are different from strategy 4. See, strategy 4 is, as I shared with you those charts, oftentimes you'll be in a sideways kind of directionless market, and it will generate a signal like it did before that stock got bought out. Well, strategy 5 is different in the fact that many times you'll see a real strong trend moving either to the upside or to the downside. That's where strategy 5 will generate signals a lot of times. So if you're the type of trader that likes to buy within the trend that's already established, strategy number 5 is great for that. But that's a completely different method, completely different rules. They're not based on the same setup at all. And it really has some nice high levels of consistency as well. But, I would contact Pro Trader Strategies. If you have questions about pricing or, that also comes with the platform, contact them and they can help you. But remember, you're getting one more strategy with the triple threat, okay? Here's the most common question I get. What is educational correspondence? Educational correspondence just means that you get, each and every one of my students gets my personal email address. So you can contact me whenever you like with questions. I was answering questions before this email from my other students around the world. And once you become a student of mine, you get access to me 24/7. And oftentimes I'm answering questions over the weekends in the middle of the morning. It makes no difference. So you never have to feel like, well, I bought this now and I'm kind of alone. I have no idea what's going on. When I call up someone for a question, I'm put on hold or they don't get back to me for another week. Well, we try to answer everyone within the next 24 hours. Oftentimes we'll do it within the next hour. So that's where we really pride ourselves on our tech support and on our educational correspondence. Oh, another thing, the educational correspondence is my personal email address, so it comes directly to me. No one else is answering the emails other than me, and no one else is seeing them. So it's not like we have an intern answering the questions. No, you're coming directly to me and I'm answering all the questions, okay? Any more questions? Does the dynamic duo have the ability to scan for stocks going up or down to save time? Yes, it does. This is a great question. With the platform, you will get the scanner that will scan for these setups. You will scan for strategy number 4, or you can scan for all the stocks that have buy signals for strategy number 4, included with the PET-D being green. You can scan for PET-D stocks that are green or PET-D stocks that are red. So this is, yes, this is another great tool we have on our platform. You'll only find that on our platform. You can scan for these, and it takes you literally seconds. In fact, I use the scanner every day, and I'll scan the S&P 500, and it takes me probably less than 2 minutes to get all the information. I can't tell you how many times I have gone to and used other platforms in the years of my 44 years of trading where I couldn't even figure out how to load a scan. It was so difficult. And it would take me hours and hours. You can have it in a matter of minutes, sometimes seconds, you'll see the market you're looking for. Another capability with our scanning process is if you have a basket of stocks that you like to look at, say 10 or 20 stocks, and those are the only ones you trade, you can literally scan for those. We show you how you can set that up and scan for them as well. So it really is a great platform, and you're getting that a full year free. So yes, you can scan for the dynamic duo and scan for stocks going up or down to save time. That's a great question. Sorry, I didn't talk about that. I left that out. There are just so many uses on our platform. Like I said, there's over 4 decades of things I've accumulated that you're getting totally free, a full year free. And it really is worth its weight in gold. And I just don't have time to go into all the other things available on the platform. We've had really tremendous testimonials from our students that say, this is so easy, it's so simple. And once again, we designed it with that specifically in mind, okay? Okay, if there are no further questions, I guess this will bring us to the end of the presentation. Remember, you're going to all be getting a link to this recording so you can watch this at your leisure, watch it again today or tomorrow, whatever you like. But one problem is don't sit on this. In other words, if you're kind of on the fence, that's fine. We're not salespeople, we're traders. We're not trying to pressure anyone. But if you go through a series of losses in the next couple of weeks and you say to yourself, gosh, nothing works with what I've been using, I'm going to go back to Pro Trader Strategies and I'm going to go, ask about that dynamic duo special again. Most likely it won't be here anymore. Now, sure, a couple of days later, it most likely will, but if you wait 2 weeks or a month, it won't be here. You'll have to pay that full almost $7,500. So really, go ahead and watch the video, but if you're serious about taking your trading to the next level, remember, contact Pro Trader Strategies. There's absolutely no obligation. Call them at 310-598-6677. They can answer any question concerning tech support or concerning pricing and discounting, and they'd be more than happy to answer without any type of obligation. But make up your mind quickly if you're really serious about taking your trading to the next level and becoming a student of mine, okay? Now, as we close here, take one last look at our disclaimer. I just want to say thanks once again for joining us today. I really hope you learned something. I really hope that you see that we have a real attention to detail, but most especially, we're really sincere about educating you. That's our goal, to really educate you. There's enough room for everyone to be successful, and that's what we want to do. We really want to have you to become a successful trader. So thank you so much. I wish you the best of luck in trading, and I look forward to all of you becoming students of mine in the Dynamic Duo course. Thanks again. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.